home to over 7 billion people, has sustained life for countless generations. However, years of overpollution and wasting of natural resources have caused greenhouse gas emission rates to have risen at unsustainable rates. Many politicians have taken active stances on the rising concerns.
The science itself is clear. Climate change is already contributing to significant environmental changes, unprecedented droughts, floods, and hurricanes, to name a few. But climate change is not only a serious environmental problem, it's a serious economic problem as well.
The decisions that we make now and in the years ahead will have a profound impact on the world that all of you inherit.
But what is there to be concerned about the world's rising climate change?
Well, scientists more than 100 years ago determined that greenhouse gases, certain gases, if they're in the atmosphere, will reflect heat back to the planet and trap it sort of like a blanket around the planet. And that has always been the case, and it's a naturally occurring effect, but since the Industrial Revolution, humans have been putting a whole bunch more of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, CO2 and methane and other gases, because of industry. And a lot of it is from fossil fuel use. The bulk of it is from fossil fuel use through power, electricity, heat, transportation, driving cars, all those things contribute. So we're all part of contributing to this problem, and it's just getting to a point where it's trapping so much heat that is dramatically changing our short-term weather and our long-term climate in a lot of unpredictable ways.
While many scientists agree that climate change is happening, skeptics are still unconvinced that it is us, the humans, that are causing it.
And this is where this hubris comes in, this certainty that they are right comes in. And you cannot say you're certain that you're right when someone who's in authority is saying it's extremely likely. That isn't certainty. Anyways, we all know about this, and from here I'm just going to show you what I show people, because you all mostly know this, but here's how I show it to people. First, yes, CO2 is increasing in the global atmosphere, but let's look at the last billion years of global climate change. I chose the most recent billion years. There is actually 3.5 more billion years of climate change before this, but we know pretty well that this is what has happened over the last billion. It's generally been warmer than it is today by many degrees Celsius. 22 degrees average global temperature has been the norm, but then there have been 4.5 ice ages during this period of time where temperature plummets on average down to 12 degrees, even 10 degrees Celsius global average. Today, the global average temperature is 14.5 degrees Celsius. We are in an ice age called the Pleistocene.
To support the idea that we need a carbon tax and so forth, feel like that we're going to have continued global warming and it's going to harm our environment. But yet, for the most part, the temperatures have been flat for the last 16 to 17 years. The computer models did not predict that. And so I think what we're coming to the recognition is the environment is not as sensitive to carbon dioxide as maybe many thought at first, and that there are other factors involved in global warming and temperature changes. We may actually see global cooling over the next decade. So I think a carbon tax is a bad idea. That's the problem. We should certainly have the cleanest air and water we can possibly have, but to destroy the economy over still a theory that's controversial in terms of what is the environmental sensitivity to carbon dioxide, I think is a bad idea.
But what is the carbon tax, and what benefits could it provide our economy?
Well, a carbon tax is a tax on fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas. The tax is imposed not at the consumer level, but at the mine or the wellhead or at the oil import station, and then the fossil fuel companies pass it down the supply chain so that at the end of the day your electricity will be somewhat more expensive if it's made from fossil fuels. It won't be more expensive if it's made from renewable fuels like solar and wind. But the point is to incentivize the transition that we desperately need from dirty energy that's destabilizing our climate to clean energy that will protect the planet.
With a carbon tax in place, businesses are incentivized to find newer, cleaner energy sources. However, we do need to act now. We need to make a choice to either continue down a path of unsustainable practices or start taking a step to become environmentally efficient. The choices we make now will forever impact us.
A lot of these gases stay in the atmosphere for a really long time. So even if we all stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow, there would still be consequences of climate change consequences for a lot of years to come. But we still need to try to reduce our carbon as dramatically and quickly as we can in a way. And I guess I would end by saying that I think there are many, many ways that we can do that and still have a good quality of life and still have economies and things, modern conveniences. So that's kind of the good news. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Climate change is already beginning to transform life on Earth. Around the globe, seasons are shifting, temperatures are climbing, and sea levels are rising. And meanwhile, our planet must still supply us and all living things with air, water, food, and safe places to live. Even though the cause of the change is disputed, the fact that it exists is undeniable. And if we don't act now, climate change will rapidly alter the lands and waters we all depend upon for survival, leaving us with a very different world. With a carbon tax in place, businesses will be incentivized to use alternative energy sources, and by doing so, bring jobs and increase GDP, all the while lowering our CO2 emissions and generating a revenue. If we slow the pace of global warming, we can pass on a healthier, safer world to future generations.